get started. All right. Okay. Yay. All right. Thank you so much for just, agreeing to be interviewed. I appreciate it. I'm so excited. I have a lot of questions, but I can tell this is going to be a good interview. So, okay. So to start, I want to ask you about your pregnancy. I have two questions. First, what was the most difficult part of your pregnancy, and what was the best part of your pregnancy?
So the most difficult part, prior to Maddie, I actually had 2 losses.
Okay.
So the most difficult part was, I feel like it was just the whole thing. Well, no, I'll say once I got to about 20, 25 weeks, I was really, really anxious.
Okay.
I think those beginning weeks were really hard for me, trying to, understand, like, is this going to be my baby that I get to meet this time?
Yeah.
That was really hard in the beginning. I think that the best part was just making it to the end.
Yeah. Okay.
Being able to see her in the end. But of course, just like watching her grow and move and just, really get to know her while she was inside was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then in general, like what was your pregnancy like? Like outside of just kind of the emotions and the anxiety and the fear, like physically, like what did you experience?
I think honestly I had a really easy pregnancy.
Okay.
Let me see. I think I was pretty nauseous in the beginning, but I didn't have like morning sickness. I remember I threw up once and my husband was like, oh, that means the baby's growing. Cause like, I don't know, you just read so much and, other times I didn't have morning sickness and sometimes they equate like how, severe your morning sickness is, whether or not, baby's growing and hormones and things like that. But he was like, oh, well, this baby's growing. And then what else? I think my body was okay. I know close to the very end, because my belly was big. And she was born in June. So, it was getting hotter and getting warmer. Yeah. So my belly was feeling heavy and hot and my feet were swelling because the days were long and I was still teaching. I was actually, I taught all the way up until my due date. For some crazy reason, I thought that I could write on my paper, oh, I'm not coming back after Memorial Day. And that my doctors rejected it. And I was like, what? And they said, well, there's no medical reason why you can't work up until your due date. And I was like, oh man. I was like, well, I mean, I'm blessed that I'm healthy, but I really thought that I could just stop working when I wanted.
Yeah. I mean, wait, I'm shocked. I feel like maybe I knew this, but like, what? Like
it was so when I sent my paperwork into Human Capital, I put the dates on there and I guess they checked with my doctor's office and they were like, oh no, her due date is June 8th and she should be able to work up until then. So I called Human Capital and asked, why am I working past May 28th? Yeah. And they were like, oh, well, your doctor said you're in perfect health and you should be okay to work until then. So.
Oh my God. Okay. So I have so many thoughts, but because this is not an interview about our previous employer, we're not going to get into that.
Yes.
But I have so many thoughts. But okay. So during that time then, like, how did you balance then just like taking care of yourself versus like being an educator and having to like be present for all the kids? Like, how did you balance that?
I think I just remained really grateful and joyful. I think coming from the place of loss and then always just remembering, this blessing that's growing inside of me, that really kept me motivated. And then a lot of people supported me at school. Like if I ever needed anything, everybody was super supportive. Like, and even like as my belly got bigger, the older kids were really cognizant. They were always like, don't stress Mr. Lagu out because you're going to stress her baby out. So I think everybody was just like really kind, really supportive. So that made work a lot easier. And a lot through not just the end of my pregnancy. My husband, he actually started cooking a lot too because I was really tired. So, because I usually cook and I like to cook. But it was some days where I'm just like, oh, we about to get this pizza. And he's like, no, cook. So that was just having a lot of support really helped me throughout. And even like my mom and my sister, like my mom, and I joke with my mom about this, but she would come over and like wash the dishes for me and like really help out. And then once Maddie was born, I was like, Mom, this is the time that I need you to wash the dishes.
Yes.
But she was really supportive too.
That's awesome. Okay. So can you tell me your birth story? What was your daughter's birth like?
So my husband and I, we signed up for birthing classes that were through Johns Hopkins and went through the birthing, classes. I believe it was like 4 sessions in a month and practiced, all the breathing and everything. And I really thought that I was going to have like an unmedicated birth. But plans change. So it was, and I remember, I think I stopped working. Let me see, because Maddie was almost a week overdue. Okay. So I stopped working on the 8th, and she was born on the 13th. Okay. But so I had my checkup and wasn't dilated. So I'm like, okay. So then I started walking a lot, and then it was on a Friday, I started to have contractions. And I was like, oh, good. Let's get this ball rolling. So I started bouncing on my ball. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And then, so that night, that Friday night, I was able to sleep through and it was fine. And then Saturday came and my husband was like, you want to go walk? So we were walking around Lake Montebello, walking around. And the contractions started to get stronger. And I was like, oh, man, this is it. Like, I don't know. And then so I went home and I started timing them, but they still weren't consistent enough for them to say like, because I wanted a hospital birth to come in. So stayed at home. And that night I tried to sleep, but I was waking up like every 15 minutes with them. And coming into Sunday, they were still like 15 minutes. And I'm just like, moving around, trying to go throughout my day and then stopping like, and then keep going and going. And then didn't really get good sleep that Sunday night either. So then Monday rolled around and my husband said, do you want me to go to work? And I was like, yeah, because they're not like close together enough. So just go and I'll call you if I need you. And he, his job knew. So I'm just home and I actually, we had a rocker for Maddie's nursery. So I put the rocker in the room because I couldn't lay down because it wasn't comfortable. So I literally just rocked all day. And when the contraction came, I just got up, walked around. And I'm still timing my contractions. At this point, they were like 5 minutes, but they weren't like a minute long. Sometimes they were 40 seconds or however. So I'm trying to time them and try to see what's happening. And then it was just getting so intense. And then I called my mom. I was like, when you come home, I'm going to the hospital. Like, I am ready. And then I got in the shower for a little bit to kind of ease the pain. And then while I was in the shower, my water broke. Okay. And it was so funny because I was like, wait, did it just happen? Or because I felt, I felt the water, but I was like, no, I didn't just pee. This is real. This is real. And I called the the labor and delivery.
Uh-huh.
And I called them once before, and they probably was like, can you just come in? Because I called and I said, my baby, she's not moving like she usually is. I'm really nervous. And they were like, well, what's happening? I said, I am having contractions. They were like, oh, she's just getting ready. And I was like, okay. So then the next time I called, then they were like, well, do you want to come in? And I was like, yeah, I'll be here soon.
Yeah.
So we, and this was Monday. So Monday the 12th. So then we went, she was born Johns Hopkins Bayview, and we live kind of northeast Baltimore.
Uh-huh.
So it's like a 16-minute drive, not bad. But my husband was just coming from work. It was like dinner time. He was like, can we stop and get some dinner? I was like, we might as well, because who knows the next time I'm gonna be able to eat. So we're at Chick-fil-A in the drive-through, and I'm like having these contractions. I'm like, it's like, I can't even eat. So then we finally go and we get to labor and delivery. And I tell them, I was like in the wheelchair, whatever, they roll you in. And they were asking about my contractions. And I said, well, they're not consistent, but they are pretty strong. And they're lasting about a minute. And we went in and she checked me and she was like, okay, well, you are 5 centimeters dilated, and we do see that your water broke. And they were like, okay, we'll admit you. And then they were like, do you want an epidural? And at this point, I was in labor for a couple of days. I said, please. Yes, please. So when they hooked me up to the machine, and you had to stay still if you're gonna get the epidural. And I was so nervous that I was gonna have a contraction while they were putting in the needle.
Yeah.
And the lady was like, are you ready? And I was like, wait, hold on. And I had a contraction pass. And she was like, wait, you just stopped and breathed through that contraction? Because they could see how intense they were. And I was like, yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last 2 days. And she was like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you came in, because they were, once I got the epidural and they did all these tests, they saw that my contractions were really intense, but they weren't regulated. So if I would have kept waiting until they were, I guess it's 5 minutes apart, then I probably would have had Maddie at home.
Yeah.
Because they were so consistent, inconsistent. So then, I'm, laboring. They give me the epidural, and I didn't sleep. So they asked me if I wanted some Benadryl. And I should have just took the Benadryl, but I'm all like, no, I'll be okay. Should have took it. So at this point, it's 8:00. I go to sleep for a little bit, and then wake up at 2, feeling the pressure. And I'm like, I think I gotta poop. They were like, no, you don't gotta poop. It's time. It's time.
Okay.
So then, because my mom and my husband were there, and they were both asleep. And I'm like, all right, y'all, come on, y'all gotta wake up. It's time.
It's happening.
It's time.
It's showtime.
So I remember, in my, watching so many videos and doing all this stuff. I was surprised that with the epidural, I was able to move how I wanted to move.
Okay.
But so my legs were up first, and then I was able to turn around on my knees to kind of push, and it was really hard. I didn't I was like, this is really hard, and I felt all of it. So it was something about, I don't know what happened with the epidural. I don't know, but it was I felt all of the pain. And I asked the lady, I was like, because I pressed the button, and she was like, well, it should be, coming out. You should be able to, it should be numb. You shouldn't be able to feel all this. And I was like, I feel everything.
Yeah.
And how, whatever. I can't even describe the feeling now, but it was pain. And I was like, I went through all that to get this epidural, and I'm still feeling so much pain. This is ridiculous.
Oh my God.
So finally, what happened? So finally, she's coming out a little bit, and they put the heart rate monitor on her, and I'm nervous because I'm thinking something's wrong with her when they, stick the little thing on her. No, she's fine. So push her out, and I pushed about 45 minutes. So it was a while. And I think mostly because I was just so scared. I was like, Lord, you did not bring me all the way here for this to end. Like, I was just so nervous for it to just end in a tragic way. And so she was born, and as soon as she came out, they put her on my chest. And I wanted to delay the cord cutting, but I think they were saying because the cord was so short that and I still had to deliver my placenta. The cord was too short for them to do it. So we clamped it and we cut it right away. And I tore, which was awful. So I think that was worse than the delivery. And I was telling I had a really great nurse. The doctor, it wasn't my regular doctor because they work in like a practice, so whoever is on call will deliver. She was not patient. She was not listening. Like, I'm telling her because of the epidural, I wasn't numb. So when it was time for them to like sew me back up, I felt all of it. And I was telling him, like, I can feel this. And the nurse was, because I had Maddie on my chest and was like, I can't even enjoy this because I can feel everything that you're doing. And the nurse was like, we need to get her some numbing cream. Do you hear her? And she was like, I was like, no, like my Simone had to take Maddie off my chest. I was like, no, you need to stop. I can feel this. We need some numbing something because this is very painful.
Oh my God.
And that was awful. And I mean, clearly I'm in the bliss of my new baby, but I should have filed a report.
You should have. I mean, good for you for standing up for yourself, but oh my gosh, like.
Yeah, I appreciate the nurse that was there too, because she was like, you need to stop. Like, she's saying that this is painful and it's uncomfortable for her. You need to stop. And then I was so sad. So Maddie was born at 5:13 that morning, and my doctor, who's a midwife, would have been a totally different birth experience. She came on call at 6 o'clock. I was like, oh my gosh, we should have waited. Hey.
Wow. Oh my gosh. What an incredible story though. So what was your postpartum period like, and what kind of support, I guess, did you need, and how were you able to kind of like ask the people around you to provide that support?
Postpartum was rough, just because I am used to doing like everything by myself, but it was tough, clearly, because it was mostly hard not knowing how to care for myself, and do everything for Maddie. Because I breastfed, it took longer for my stitching to heal. And it was just very painful to go to the bathroom for weeks on weeks. And I did have postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. And didn't really realize it until not even my wellness checkup. I think it was Maddie's pediatric wellness, one of her first checkups with her doctor. I filled out the paperwork. Because you don't see, I didn't see my doctor until 6 weeks, but I saw Maddie's doctor and we had the paperwork. And she kind of emailed me and she was like, hey, I did notice that you scored in the postpartum depression range. Here are some resources. If you need, anything else, you can just call me or of course call your doctor. So I actually reached out to a friend who worked for a nonprofit called Family Tree, and hooked us up with I don't know what her title is, but just like a family support person. So she was able to come in and tell us different things of how to help a newborn, and then they actually found like a support group for me for moms who have postpartum depression. And that was really helpful, because not, just hearing other women's stories, like I'm not by myself, like this is not something that's uncommon, because I feel like you know, in the Black community, a lot of people, we don't talk about it. So whenever you have something, you feel so alone. Same way how I felt with my miscarriages. Like, I just felt so alone. I was like, I don't hear anybody else talking about this. I don't know if, you know, other people are experiencing this. But from there, that's when I knew how to communicate my needs. So I started asking more of my husband, like, listen, we started doing shifts. So I slept from I breastfed her, you know, slept for a couple hours. And then what the beauty of this was, once I woke up, that was that longer stretch that she slept. So then I breastfed her and then slept a little bit more, and life definitely got a lot easier.
Yeah.
And this was about at the 5-week mark.
Okay.
So yeah, those first, honestly, everything's a blur.
Yeah. Look, the first year for me, but
I agree.
The first year was wild, but like that, I guess, the first like 8 weeks, it is insane. And like the amount of like ups and downs, and like just like such a wild like shifting in like the emotions. Like, it's crazy. It is crazy. And there were times where I was just like, something's not right. Like, this cannot be life right now.
Like, I was like, oh no, this is tough.
Yeah.
And you know, the question, I don't know why people think this is a good question to ask. Right after you have a baby, people are going to ask you, oh, when do you have another one? And I literally be like, no, never. And once I was like, really like, never. And then upset when people would ask me. He was like, baby, you don't have to respond like that when people say things. I was like, well, I don't know. You come up with the line, because right now I'm just frustrated. Absolutely.
Or like, I feel like that's a very invasive question, and people don't get it, and they're just like trying to be like, oh, you know, that's so cute, you know, whatever. Okay, cool. But like, it's a very invasive question. And like, somebody asked me that, and I was like, look, I almost didn't make it through this one. So like, let's just take it slow. Okay. Cause like, I don't know. I don't know if this is happening again. Like, it's tough. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that, because it's a lot of times it's hard to admit, like, okay, I really struggled. And like, I know, cause I really struggled a lot. And so it was like being able, I think the only thing, like, I'm so glad social media is like a gift and a curse, but I'm really glad that we live in like the era that we do, because that was literally like the only thing that saved me. Like, I'm like on Instagram, like looking, and I'm just like, oh snap, like other people like experience this too. Okay. Like, I'm not alone. These are normal. Like, I'm having all these crazy thoughts, and like, this is normal. Like, okay, you know, I gotta like find like a coping mechanism, find something. And like, you know, that really helped me, because I really thought like I had a problem. And it was the same for me. Like, I scored low, and so like I got like a list of like resources and stuff, and I actually didn't even reach out to the resources that I feel like I should have, and I just like didn't, because I was so nervous. I was so scared, so like I didn't reach out. I
was fearful too, thinking like, if I say something wrong, are they gonna come take my baby? They're gonna put me in the hospital. Like, I was
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, what was your transition back to work like?
I did not want to go back to work. I was like thinking of everything. I'm talking to my husband. I'm like, what if we sell a car? Like, what if we do all this stuff? Just so I don't have to go back. It was really tough. This is when I was looking for a therapist to help me with this transition. And it's not like, while I went back to work, it was my mother and my mother-in-law who kept Maddie. So I didn't really have any worries or fears about that. It was just me being away from her was really hard. And I didn't know it was going to be that hard, because I never thought that I would want to be like a stay-at-home mom or work from home mom. But once she came, and just that attachment and just wanting to, I mean, nobody's gonna have a perfect child, but just give her the best I know I can give her.
Yeah.
That was really hard. And going back to work and trying to balance breastfeeding and pumping. Literally, well, my body is very sensitive to change anyways, but I was only back to work for a week and my period came back.
Wow.
At 4 months. I was like, I thought I had at least 6 months.
Yeah.
So that that's how literally my body just, was very sensitive to me not, nursing on demand anymore, just pumping. And then I wasn't pumping regularly because of planning time and trying to play catch up to get things done. So that was really hard. Looking back, I wish I would have taken that extra time that we're allotted to have. But I'm like, no, I just pumped on my planning in my lunchtime. But I should have took extra time just because it did eventually diminish my supply. Which was hard because Meg was a big baby. She just required a lot of milk. And another part of that, trying to tell parents, I was doing a lot of reading how formula fed babies or how you feed babies breast milk, you give them, you give them a little bit and stop to let them kind of burp and just you don't just hold the bottle and let the baby finish. I don't know. That's what I was reading. So I'm trying to explain that to my mom and my mother-in-law because they were going through milk like this. And I was like, y'all, I can't produce more than this. That was it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. It's hard. It's hard. Even leaving them, it's so hard. Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about your career background and your journey, the journey to wellness, I guess, that you went through before kind of deciding, hey, I'm going to start this business? What was your journey and what were you doing beforehand?
Yes. So I am a public school librarian. I see pre-K through 5th grade students. Actually a couple of times throughout the week just because I am full-time. So I see some of the kids twice or 3 times a week. And originally I started out in the classroom, but I felt that was too stressful, too demanding. So I transitioned to the library, which can still be stressful, but less demanding. And I just realized so after Maddie, altogether, weight gain, I probably gained 30 pounds. And when she was maybe 6 months, 6 weeks, I lost most of the weight, but of course belly was not the same. But when I was home, I'm making all my meals, eating well. When I transitioned back to work, I didn't, have that time to just be making food. I had to wash bottle parts, pump milk, write lessons, so much. So when I got back to work, it was just eating out a lot and then just, started gaining weight, just not feeling good about myself, not feeling good about, even my performance at work, just everything was just, in a cycle. And it wasn't until, really last summer where I got serious about it, because I always kept saying, oh, I'm going to eat better. And I would, every break time. So summer breaks, I always ate really good and had the time to move my body and feel good about myself. And then the school year kept coming and, not taking the time to plan my meals and, plan what movement I'm going to do would just mess me up. So it was another cycle of just not committing. So it wasn't until last summer where I was in a really dark place of just not feeling good about myself, frustrated about, relationship things, just a lot. It was just a lot at the one time.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I had an Apple Watch, and I was like, I'm just gonna get serious. I'm gonna move, I'm gonna close my rings every day. And I was pretty consistent with it, and started feeling good about it. I started my movement journey just with dance, because I was going to the gym, but I was like, I can't keep this up. Like, I don't feel like waking up 5 o'clock every morning going to the gym. Like, it felt good, but then, and at the same time too, I did discover this book called Woman Code that talks a lot about women's menstrual cycle and how to like eat and exercise and plan your self-care and social activities around your menstrual cycle, just because there are so many hormone fluctuations. When our hormones are low, our energy's low, but when our hormones are higher, our energy's high, we're vibrant. We, have the want to do those certain things. So me not knowing that before, I kept, punishing myself, shaming myself for not, Maya, come on, you were going to the gym last week. What's going on this week? Not knowing like, hey, your period's about to start, girl, your energy is low, chill out. So taking that information and, just being kinder to myself, being more gracious to myself, really kind of got me going on my wellness journey. And just trying to make better. Like, I love cake. I eat cake all the time, but I mostly have a plant-based diet. I get my protein in, I get my healthy fats. I'm not about depriving myself of the things that I want, because that can't be life. Like, right. Like, I want the things I want. Yeah. And I move my body to feel good, to be stronger. I'm not moving my body because I just ate my cake and I'm trying to work it off. No, moving my body to be stronger and feel better about myself. And that's what ignited my journey. And then kind of coming full circle for things. At first I thought last summer when I set this goal, I thought, okay, I'm gonna lose my weight and I'm gonna feel better. But, as the pounds came off, I still felt frustrated, still felt angry just about work and, parenting and wife life, just so many things. And I was like, I don't feel how I thought I would feel. So then I still did, more introspection, and thank God for, the pandemic obviously is tough. It's scary. But this time just gave me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, time to really slow down and think about things, in our lives. And, I was able to just, take, I'm sure you heard of like the Myers-Briggs, just like looking more into that and how my personality is, looking into Enneagram. Yeah. And, figuring out that, I'm actually a highly sensitive person. So I thought I'm just like overly emotional, but no, I'm a highly sensitive person, which is a trait that some people have, where people's like the way the environment can impact your own feelings and emotions. Absolutely. And just knowing that about myself now and creating a different self-care plan for myself, taking the time to just be in silence, starting my day just in silence, doing more reading because that relaxed me. Like, I try not to watch so much TV, because then the things that I watch on TV are like pulling on me, like especially if it's like a drama or
yeah, you get nervous, it affects you. It does.
Just being aware of different things that I weren't aware of before, that definitely helps me out, in my mental health journey.
Sure. That's amazing. That's so funny, because I just feel like when we're able to take the time to kind of like you it's almost like you had a mindset shift and you realize, okay, like maybe these external things like that I'm looking for, like weight loss or like this or that, is like really not where it is. And maybe like I need to just spend some time with myself and getting to know myself and realizing, okay, like that's where the answer is going to be. And so that's awesome. 'Cause, well, Yeah, that's a big blessing. So that's
Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
So what is becoming well together, and what is the most meaningful part of your work?
So Becoming Well Together was born during this pandemic time where, well, first it was like so much uncertainty about, teachers going back to work and what things would look like. And even though I still work for public schools, I knew that I didn't want other people dictating like what I was going to do, anytime, I wanted to create flexibility for myself. I wanted to create a legacy for Maddie. One of the, excuse me, one of the most important things about this is, this journey for myself is Maddie seeing me do it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of times maybe, women of color, we didn't always see, our moms taking care of themselves like we know we should now, just because they had to balance so much.
Right.
And I want to make sure that she sees me doing this, and at the same time support other moms who haven't, gotten their footing on how they need to start their own journey. Just because, as you know now, like I've been through it. Like I know I've been in tough places, hard places where I wasn't sure I was going to come out of. But by the grace of God, I'm here, and my purpose is to support other women who feel like I feel, who think that they want to chase weight loss, they want to chase these things, but we got to first look internally and first start with what's going on inside of us, try to manage stress. And through that, we can focus on nutrition, we can focus on movement, we can focus on mindful practices, but first, tackle what's going on inside here, inside of here.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's great. I was like chills. That's awesome. Okay. It's so hard. Like it's hard in general, because it's almost like the signals that you get from the world are like, you have to grind and you have to work hard for the things that you want. And like, while that messaging, is accurate, it's not like that grind doesn't have to look like you hustling, like, and you got like 15 million like side hustles and you're working a full-time job, and like, you got this going and that going, like, and that kind of like hustle mentality, it's really harmful a lot of times. And then in addition to that, like when you're like, after you have kids, it's just like, oh, the expectation is, oh, well, like, that's just what you do. Like, you take care of your family and you work and like, you do this. And like, it's almost like you're shamed if you can't handle like,
and that's
all
the
of
scary, that is the scary part about it. You feel inadequate, even though you're doing all these things, you feel inadequate because you don't want to admit that you're having trouble, or it's too much, or it's too hard. I used to feel a lot of that just because, like, my mom, she had 4 kids and my mother-in-law has 4 kids, and just like, all right, come on, Maya, you have one, you can do this. But, things are just different. Everybody's different, and it's okay, for things to be hard. And, as an adult and talking to my mom, she was like, yeah, it's hard. Why did you think you went to go live with your dad for a little bit? And I was like, oh, I thought. She was like, no, I was stressed out. Like, she was like, not because of you, just things. And I was like, okay, like, I'm glad to know that as an adult, and now as a mother, that, it's okay for those things to happen. And, our children won't be severely impacted. I mean, by minor things like that. We have to do what's best for us, and what our children will benefit from us, and that's taking care of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if it's just the little 10-minute break that you can take, in between like whatever else that you have going on. I think it's so important. So given the health disparities within like Black and Brown communities in the United States and even globally, how does this knowledge inform how you run your business?
So I want to make sure I am working with women of color, moms of color, just because I know, we don't all have that. We're not all given that same information or even that same care like, other women are.
Sure.
And I want to make sure that the things that I know, especially about working with our bodies, working with our cycles, this is something that we all know, just because it's too many of us that have to get like, hysterectomies and, have all these different reproductive challenges just because the doctors feel like that's the easiest solution.
Yeah.
When we are, fueling our bodies with the things that it needs to successfully run and, be at its best, then I believe, a lot of these issues that we have, like polycystic ovarian syndrome and endometriosis, and a lot of those things can be counteracted with, changing our foods and our movement and, taking care of ourselves, reducing a lot of the stress and the things that we put on ourselves. Another thing too, so I do offer one-on-one coaching, but I think one of the things I am going to push more is my membership program, just because it can be expensive to sign up for one-on-one coaching for a health coach. And I don't want this message to miss anybody just because they feel like they don't have X amount of dollars to sign up for one-on-one coaching. Yeah. I want to make sure that it is affordable to people who need it. Yeah. Because we need it, time is up for us to just be, continuing with the aches and the pains that we've had for months and sometimes years, ignoring the things, not making appointments, that we should for those things. And then, getting these major surgeries or having these major procedures done just because we didn't listen to our bodies. We weren't in tune with our bodies to know the change or the difference in what was happening.
Absolutely.
So yes, I'm ready to, just reach every woman that I can and give them this message and, support them and teach them and encourage them to just, take ownership of their bodies. We don't have to be slaves to medical diagnosis and things like that. We have to be proactive in our health and take charge of our health.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that you said it. The way that you phrase it, like time is up for us to be dealing with and just like going along with like these aches and pains that we feel. Like that's so true. And like you always feel like, okay, well, there's always going to be like a chance for me to call the doctor. Like I can do that later. Like I have all these things to do. I'll call the doctor later. You just keep putting it off. And like, yeah, that is so true. And like, even just looking at like my own, like myself and then my own family history, and like my mom, like she has diabetes, and like her mom had diabetes, and like, it's just, you have these things, you have all these signals, I guess you could call them, that your body like gives you. And it's just like, she just like put it off because like, oh, well, like Marla and Kareen have like a Christmas concert, or like, we have to get ready for like this volunteering for student council, and it's just like, it's so important. And like, it's so also like just as important to be able to model that for like the next generation. Like, I'm taking care of myself. Like I'm listening to my body. It's so important. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So summer 2020 was wild. There were wildfires, there were Black Lives Matter renaissance and like racial reckoning and protests. And so I'm wondering how just like watching all of that impacted your roles as a mother, an educator, and a business owner. And how did you take care and how did you cope with all of that?
Honestly, just because I am a sensitive person to information and news, I didn't watch a lot of news. Whenever, like, my husband watches a lot of news, my mother-in-law watches a lot of news. So whenever I heard something, I definitely just stopped, breathe through it. And most times I often said a prayer for the person, for the family, for myself to just, 'cause it was really tough hearing those things. And when was it? I can't remember what situation, but we were still in school, and what was it? Yeah, I think it was Breonna Taylor. And then we had a staff meeting, and the atmosphere was just so why are we here right now? Trying to piece together the things that are important and things that are not important, when realizing this is not, just one Black woman, who was killed. This is something serious that's happening. And, it was tough trying to balance, the things that are important and things that are not important. Clearly my students are important, but for today, because of how I'm feeling, we're just going to read independently. We're going to take time. We're going to, if kids wanted to talk about it, we talked about it. But just, recognizing how you usually deal with loss and tragedy, even though, they're not our family members, but it's still loss and tragedy to us. Recognizing how you usually deal with it and trying to cope in that safer way. So I would, talk to my husband about how he's feeling, and, and when George Floyd was killed, we talked about that, and he, I asked him, how are you feeling? This is tough, because when he goes out, I'm home working, and he actually was still going into work during the pandemic. I was worried for him every day going out, just because, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter. Anything can happen. So just definitely concerned, and just being aware of how he was feeling as well. As a business owner, I didn't start my business until later this summer. But I think in the heat, when, there were a lot of things happening, or just thinking about a lot of business, this is not the time for me to promote my business. This is not the time for me to tell you, X, Y, and Z that I have going on. This is my time. If I was really into my business, it would be my time to let people know, I'm here for support. I'm offering this, breathing exercises, breathing, if you want to come join me, that kind of thing, to help people process, not necessarily, pushing my services, but pushing my, what I can offer, how I can help.
How you can help
in that kind of way.
Okay. So how are you looking forward to caring for yourself and nurturing yourself in 2021?
In 2021, I've been coming off of the, I was never really a go hard in the gym kind of person. I'm definitely an at-home workout kind of person. But I'm coming off of the lifting all the time kind of phase. I'm moving more into Pilates. I'm actually becoming trained to be a mat Pilates trainer. And it's helping me so much to just slow down and really listen to my body. So going into 2021, I'm definitely just going to slow down, try to see basically trying to get my business automated as much as I can, so I am there for Maddie. She's only 3, but she feels it. Like when I'm at my computer doing work, mommy, can you come do this? Mommy, can you come do that? And it's tough. Like I'm not like grinding, like I'm not up all night doing stuff. That's what I won't do. Like I'm not compromising my sleep. But I do spend a lot of time at the computer during like awake hours. And I'm noticing that, she's competing for my attention. So my goals in 2021 is to make sure I have as much automation or systems in place. That way, I can give to my business. I can see it flourish, but at the same time, I have time for my family.
Awesome. Great. So parenthood and motherhood are often described as fostering or causing the greatest joy and the most excruciating fear. So how do you raise your daughter to be confident and fierce and to take risks despite the many fears and anxieties that you feel as a mother, especially a Black mother or mother of color, raising a daughter, who is a person of color in the United States?
Oh, that's good. I'm not consistent with it, but I try to do affirmations with her in the morning. Because Maddie is she's a very shy kid, and she's very cautious. Which is so funny because she's so curious and she wants to do things, but she's super cautious about a lot of things. So I try to remind her, I am strong, I can do hard things, I am brave. Nothing is too much for me. Try to keep her and help her understand that. So when she does get to tough things, she can remember, like, this is tough, but I can do it. So that's been something we've been trying to do around here. And just modeling for her. I think, as teachers, we know that, like, thinking about your thinking. I'm trying to be more mindful of that. Like if she sees me kind of like looking at something or think about something, she'll ask me like, mommy, what you doing? What do you think about? And I'll tell her like, I'm thinking about this is just so hard, but I know, I'm going to try my best and I'm going to do it. And she was like, oh yeah, you can do your best. So,
yes. I love how kids are they're like your own little like cheerleaders. Are like, yes, mommy, yes, you can do it.
Yeah. And just another thing, working on just trying to make her feel confident enough to ask for the things that she needs. So of course, like being at home, she's an only child, so it's easier. But like in school, mostly a lot last year, but less this year. Her teachers are saying, we're trying to remind her to speak up for the things that she wants, and not to be like so like hard on her, but I tell her like, you won't get the things that you want if you don't ask. And that's a life lesson. Like I feel like I'm always giving her these life lessons, but I'm like, okay, hold on, she's 3. She's 3. But just like, because our voices become like our children's like inner voices, as they grow up. So I want her to remember like, oh, I don't ask for this, I'm never gonna get it. So
okay, sorry. So what are you most grateful for as a mother?
That is a good question. I don't know. I'm just so grateful to be a mother. It was very challenging, having a child, and even afterwards, because I had a miscarriage over this summer. So it's I'm just grateful to be able to have her and see all the things that I'm putting in her for her to grow up and to be the person she is. I don't know. I'm just grateful for it all.
Awesome. Okay. And then how, if at all, did becoming a mother change you?
I think I don't know. I mean, clearly it changed my whole being. And I've read a lot of research that it changes our brains traumatically.
Yeah.
Something about just being hyper aware. You know, I just, well, I mean, I wasn't ever a selfish person because I'm the oldest child. So I always, was responsible for other people. But just being able to, I guess, love to a different capacity. Like you think that, you love your spouse, and that's as much love that you could ever give somebody, or your parents or your siblings. But this little person, like the amount of love that I never knew or knew I could feel for somebody. Even when, I don't feel my best and I think, or I look at her and she's like, man, I was smiling and being a kid. It makes me feel better. And, reminds me like, all right, Maya, let's snap out of it and do what's best for, what we have to do. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So this is my last question. If you had to describe your journey to motherhood in a tweet, so that's 140 characters, what would you say? And it's okay if you go over, but like what would you say? What would it say?
Let me see. Motherhood will be the most joyful. I don't know how many characters I'm at. Motherhood will be the most joyful, but you got to truly work to feel the joy.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good.
Let me write that down.
I like that. I'm going to write that down. Just like put it on my little like board. That is good. Oh my gosh, that's so true. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna stop it now.